So let's get to our guest. His name is Britt Reid, and Britt is a former NFL outside linebackers coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. His coaching career began when he worked for his father, Andy Reid, as a practice squad coach intern in 2009 with the Philadelphia Eagles. And he continued as he worked in multiple different coaching positions for his father with the Kansas City Chiefs from 2013 to 2020. And he also won the Super Bowl 54 as the Chiefs linebacker and outside linebackers coach. That said, man, Britt had a lot of things going for him, but under the surface, there was a lifelong battle with substance abuse and alcoholism. And you may have heard about some of this in the news. What should have been the American dream literally became a nightmare for so many involved when Britt got behind the wheel of a car after drinking. And in an instant, man, his life changed, and he became an inmate in the Missouri Department of Corrections. So a lot of lives impacted in that incident. But today, Britt is out of prison. He lives a life of service while working an active recovery program. We're going to talk about that today, of course. And he's got a great story of humility, of redemption, of grace, of grit, and perseverance. And it's a great reminder to everyone out there listening and everyone just trying to do the next right thing. In living in Britt being an example of never giving up, always having hope and being able to turn your life around. So, Britt, I know that was a bit of a long intro, and of course I want to hear you tell your side of this, but man, it's really an honor to have you on the podcast. Thanks for coming on today, man.
Shane, thanks for having me, man. I love that intro. It gets me so pumped up. It brings me back to where I discovered your podcast, and I love it, man.
Oh man. Well, a little credit where credit's due. That's Humans Music. My buddy Robbie, they're from Canada, just a great dude. And we've had that intro on the show for quite some time now. So appreciate those guys and appreciate that as well. I would love to hear about that. Like, how did you find the podcast? And of course we'll back up a little bit, but I think you hit me up, how we kind of connected. You hit me up on Instagram messaged me and just said, hey, like, I listened to the podcast in prison. It helped get me through. And I was kind of blown away by that. It's always crazy to hear stories like that. So, I mean, how did that take shape, man?
Yeah. So they give you these tablets in prison, mm-hmm. and there's a bunch of stuff that you can search for free. And so I was looking for a good, upbeat sobriety type podcast, and I found yours, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And man, I'd stick my headphones in, and every day when I was working out, I was listening to that Sober Guy podcast, man. So it definitely it got me through some of the toughest times of my life. Being in there in prison, there's not a whole lot of hope in there. It's one of the most negative, violent environments on earth. And, to be able to just stick your headphones in and get some recovery in your life, was awesome, man. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude, that's amazing. And thanks for sharing that a little bit, man. It's, like I said, when we first hopped on, it's just amazing what God can do sometimes, in our lives and in other people's lives. So I appreciate being a part of it. And thanks for sharing that, bro. So, I mean, I don't even know where to start here, man. Gosh, there's so much. Maybe take us back, man. Like where did this all start for you?
Yeah, great question. So I was actually, an opiate addict, right? I was my freshman year in high school. We had just got done our summer lifting program. We were getting ready to start training camp. It was really right around this time of year. And we were in the weight room, getting ready to do max outs on our major lifts. And I was on the squat rack warming up, and I get halfway through a squat and I feel a pop in my back and I collapse. Tremendous amount of pain. I go to the doctor, get an MRI, and it comes back I fractured my L4 vertebrae. And so they prescribed me two things. They prescribed me physical therapy and Vicodin. And didn't like that physical therapy so much, but that Vicodin, man, was unbelievable. I could take one of those and attack the rehab just a little bit harder and get back on the field. And then I did that. I got back on the field, the following year I get a knee injury and I have to have knee surgery. And now they send me home with 40 milligram Oxycontin. And so, Vicodin was good. Oxycontin was great, man. I mean, that was the true game changer for me. And I ran through that prescription real quick, and I didn't know it at the time, but as soon as I finished that prescription, I got super sick, man, like sicker than I've ever been. And I thought I had an infection in my knee. The doctors really didn't know what was going on. They sent me out to get tested. I mean, they tested me for everything under the sun, and it all came back negative. And what I didn't know at the time was I was going through opiate withdrawal, and so for about a week, I was just sicker than a dog. I finally start to feel better. I go back to school, and I'm walking around. I'm complaining to my buddies. I feel like crap. My body hurts. Da da da.
Yeah.
And one of my friends says, "Hey, I got something that I think will help you." And he hands me some Percocet. And I take one of those Percocets, and instantly all the pain's gone. I feel like $1,000,000. I feel like I can conquer the world again. And I ran through all those, and I called them up. Hey, you got any more? And when I exhausted that resource, I went to the next guy, the next guy, and the next guy. And before you know it, I'm 16 years old, and I got a drug dealer in North Philadelphia. And so it was off to the races from there, man. And I was battling it for years.
Did alcohol play a role in all that too, or did you kind of was that always there as like a side thing, or what did that look like?
So alcohol, I was raised with my dad always telling me, hey, you come from a long line of alcoholics. That's bad news for us. Stay away from it. My dad's the first person on his side of the family not to be an alcoholic. His brother, his dad, both his grandfather, everybody. We're Scott Irish, man. We like to drink. And so I kind of stayed away from alcohol. I would, like, in college, I drank a little bit, but I was always kind of scared to get into alcohol. And so here I'm doing heroin and all this other stuff. And it wasn't until later, I kind of checked off everything. Cocaine, can't handle that. Opiates, can't handle that. Benzos, can't handle that. And I was like, I haven't tried alcohol really. Like, I think I can handle that. And alcohol grabbed a hold of me faster than any of those other things, man. Wow. It kicked my tail.
How long? So you started the opiates around 16. How long did that last for? Did that go into your 20s or?
Yeah. So, I got my senior year in high school, I got an opportunity to go play football at Arizona State. And I'm getting ready that summer to go out to Arizona State. And it kind of dawns on me, hey, when you get out there, they're going to drug test you. And there's no way you can fail this drug test. I mean, your career will be over before it started. And so I detoxed myself off the opiates, and I went out to ASU, and everything was going great for a while, and I went out there to play linebacker. And, I was at practice one day. We were doing hitting drills, and I went to tackle one of the running backs, and I hit him at just the right angle. And because of that fracture in my L4, my spine was weak right there. And again, I collapsed, tingling all down my legs, can't feel my toes. I mean, scary deal. Go back to the doctor, another MRI, it comes back, I've now crushed my L5 vertebrae, and I need surgery. So I have the surgery, and, we all have decisions to make in life, right? And I found myself at a fork in the road, and, I had to have the surgery, but they also told me, hey, you can't play football anymore. And so I was kind of in this identity crisis. And so the decision I made was not to tell the doctors, hey, I've been highly addicted to opiates and I can't take these things. When I take them, bad things happen. We got to kind of come up with a different game plan. I didn't tell them that. And so I had the surgery, and then I was back on it, and I was on it for a while there. I mean,
that's a serious surgery too. Like, that's just like, I mean, that's a lot of pain, a lot of recovery time. And like, that's, it's not minor, and that's just such a tough decision to be kind of caught caught in the middle of.
Yeah. Yeah. I had that identity crisis, man, and I wanted to numb all those feelings that I was feeling. In my mind, I grew up in locker rooms, right? My dad has been a coach since the day I was born, and I didn't know anything else. My identity was connected to football. And in my mind, I thought I was going to play in the NFL one day. I mean, that I really wasn't that good, but in my mind, I was like, I'm going to be playing in the NFL. And when they told me, hey, you can't even finish college football, I was just crushed, man. And so I wanted to kind of numb all those feelings, and that's what I did. And here I am. I mean, this is the early 2000s, right? And so it's right at the beginning of the opioid epidemic. And now I got this MRI that I can take to any doctor and they'll write me a prescription for whatever I wanted, And so I had ample amounts of opiates, and things snowballed quickly, man. And I ended up dropping out of school, started running around with a really rough crowd. I mean, I was running around Tempe, Arizona like I owned the place. And it got so bad that I had to leave Tempe. I had to move back to Philadelphia to my parents' house. And, I introduced my older brother to opiates as well. And my older brother had been straight as an arrow. And I introduced him to Oxycontin after his freshman year in college. And that grabbed a hold of him so much faster than it ever grabbed a hold of me. And he spent the next couple of years bouncing in and out of rehabs. And so when I moved back to Philadelphia, he had just gotten out of a rehab. He moved back to Philly to my parents' house. And so now I'm back in my old stomping grounds with my partner in crime, and I'm out running and gunning again. And everything kind of came to a head in January of 2007. I was taking classes at a community college, and I'm on my way to class one morning, high as a kite, and I get into an altercation with another driver. And I get in a fight with him, and I end up pulling a gun on him. Later that day, my brother shoots up with some heroin, gets in his car, starts driving, nods off, runs a red light, and T-bones this lady. So 2 separate instances, the same day we both get arrested, right? I mean, it was complete chaos. By the time I bailed out of jail, I could barely make it up the road to my parents' house. There was so much media. I finally get up to the house, and there's literally helicopters hovering over our house. I mean, it was crazy, but it was then that I ended up getting sent to jail. I mean, I did 6 months in jail. I got out in February of 2008, and I got into a treatment program, drug court program. And that's when I first found the rooms of recovery. I started going to NA meetings and AA meetings, and I was clean for a long time. And I had a slight relapse in 2012. My brother, he also went to prison. He did two years upstate. And I get out of jail. I start to try to rebuild my life. That's when I got into coaching. I actually started coaching at a private high school in Philadelphia. And then my brother gets out of prison. He's trying to rebuild his life. And he did an internship with my dad at the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a strength and conditioning intern. And in 2012, I was getting married, and we fly out to California for my wedding. And I get married. I go on my honeymoon. I come back. At this time, I'm working for Temple University, right? And working with their football team. And so I get back from my honeymoon, and we got to report to training camp. My brother reports to the Eagles training camp. I report to Temple University's training camp. And 3 days into training camp, the head coach comes and knocks on my office door. And I'm in my office working on practice scripts. And he's got my little brother with him. My little brother played running back for us at Temple University. And he says, "Hey, I need to see you in my office." I go down to his office, and me and my little brother walk into his office. He hands me a phone, walks out, and closes the door. I answer that phone, and it's my dad on the other line. And he's like, "Hey, Britt, Garrett OD'd last night." And I mean, dude, I was crushed. I mean, that's my best friend, man. Like we did everything together. We were coaches' kids, so we moved a lot. And it didn't really matter where we went because I always had my best friend.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me he OD'd. But it didn't register right away, right? Like I asked my dad, I was like, "Okay, well, what hospital is he at?"
Yeah.
And he said, "No, you don't understand. He OD'd and died." And I was just crushed, man. My whole world came crashing down. My brother dead because of the drug I introduced him to, And I remember getting in, me and my brother jumped in my truck and we drove up to the Eagles training camp. And it was complete insanity up there. I mean, my dad had to cancel the morning practice, and didn't tell the media why.
Yeah.
So they knew something was going on. There's police all around the dorm room. And so we get up there, we're trying to navigate through the media, through the police barricade. We finally get up to the dorm, and I remember walking into the dorm, and my dad's room was right across the hallway from my brother's. And I walk into my dad's dorm room, and he gives me and my little brother a hug, and he's like, "Hey, come with me." And he walks us across the hallway, and I walk into this dorm room, and I'll never forget, right there to the right, all 6'5", 300 pounds of my brother's laid out on this couch. And it looked like he was sleeping.
Wow.
And I walked up and I grabbed his arms and I looked, at his arms, and I saw one needle mark in his left arm, and I didn't need a toxicology report or anything else to tell me that he had just died from an opiate overdose.
Yeah.
But as you know, I mean, addiction is so cunning, baffling, and powerful, man. I left that room where I was just holding my dead brother, and I went and used the same drug that had just killed him.
Dang.
Like, it's just, even to this day, I can't wrap my mind around that. And listen, it wasn't a full blown relapse, but it was a relapse nonetheless,
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my last stint with opiates, and I had that brief relapse. I got back on the wagon and started to kind of rebuild, and we ended up leaving for Kansas City the following year. My dad got fired with the Eagles. The head coach for Temple got a new job at Boston College. And so I had an opportunity to either go to Boston College or to Kansas City with my dad. And I chose to go to Kansas City, and went to Kansas City and started working there.
How do you even process that? Like hearing you tell this, I mean, it's so heavy, bro. It's so, and I'm so sorry, man. That is whatever, but it's just heartbreaking, number one, and number two, it's such a, like, the ability to even sit in that for a minute and be in your shoes for that moment, and then the history there too of, because I've always said, I have an issue with alcohol, I have an issue with addiction. And it could be all different types of stuff. But a lot of it, the root of it is that I learned to run and not feel at a young age. And so when stuff happens, I immediately want to disconnect and not feel. It's like compartmentalization to the fullest. And so I can relate to you on how even in something so serious like that, your first reaction is to just go get high, because like, how else am I going to deal with this, man? Like, so how have you, like, I'm sure you've had to do a ton of work through that. I'm sure it's not been easy, but have you and your dad and your younger brother, have you guys been able to find, some sort of healing and some sort of, way to make sense of all that?
Yeah. I think our faith played a big part in it. And, my little brother and my dad really, they handled it the right way and really relied on their faith and everything.
Yeah.
For me, dude, I white knuckled it. Like, I didn't address it, and it wasn't until 10 years later, after I get in the accident, back in 2021, and I go to a rehab that I finally started to address that, you know.
Wow.
For those 10 years, I was carrying around this weight that I felt like I had killed my best friend and my
Yeah.
brother, you
Oh,
know. And again, it wasn't until, you know, I had finally had a thinking change, right? When I walked
yeah.
into that rehab in 2021, my thinking had finally changed. And I walked in there with a very receptive mindset. And um, the first thing I addressed was that, you know, and I
Yeah.
did a lot of work on it. And, you know, the 12 steps have helped. Um, you know, obviously I can't call my brother or go see my brother and tell him I'm sorry for introducing you to the drugs that killed him. And so
Yeah.
my amends process is a living amends. You know, how I live my life from this point forward is the only way I can say sorry to my brother. It's
Mm,
also the
yeah.
only way I can say sorry to that little girl that I hurt in the accident and
Yeah.
her family, because I'm not legally allowed to call that little girl or her family and say I'm sorry. You
Yeah.
know, if I contact them, I go back to prison. And
Mm,
so the way I live my life from this point moving forward is my way of saying sorry. And you know, I can't change the past. There's nothing I can do about that. But I can keep doing the next right thing. I can be of
yeah.
service. You know, I can give back what was so freely given to me. And my only hope and prayer these days is that, you know, my story, my message can maybe help someone else or another family not go through what I put my family, that little girl's family through, or myself through, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at. That's how I've tried to process it and live with it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's you said that something changed after those 10 years. So we kind of stopped actually. You said you after a year after your brother passed, you went to Kansas City.
Yeah.
So I do you want to share a little bit about that? Was that just kind of running and gunning, just kind of the same similar
Yeah. You,
way of life during that
you
time,
know,
or
it wasn't, it was, so I had gotten married. I started a family, you
mm,
know, which in 2013, my son was born, which I think was huge, not only for me, but for my extended family as a whole,
yeah,
right? The crazy thing is this: my wife, her older brother died of an opiate overdose as well,
oh
two
wow,
years before my brother did, right? So her family was dealing with that loss. My family's dealing with my brother's loss. And so in 2013, my son's born, and it brought some new life into the family, you know?
yeah,
And and so, but again, I was white knuckling it, right? I wasn't doing the things I needed to do. Uh, I wasn't doing my dailies. I wasn't doing all the little things that you need to do to stay in fit spiritual conditioning to be granted that reprieve for the day, you
yeah,
know? And so uh, I immersed myself into work. I ended up having two more kids, and and so things were going okay, but then I started to slip. You know, it got to be
yeah,
too much, and I started dabbling it first started with marijuana. I started smoking weed, and then I started drinking,
mm,
and
gotcha,
the drinking just increased more and more and more. And then really when COVID hit in 2020, um, we had just won the Super Bowl, right?
yeah,
Uh, and as soon as we got done the Super Bowl, uh, basically the world shut down, right? So
yeah,
I'm working from my basement, you know, I'm on my computer, we're having Zoom meetings with the players, and I don't know what it was, but I started, that's when like the day drinking started, right?
yeah, yeah,
And it just got worse and worse and worse. Um, and fast forward, you know, to the following year, uh, January, what was it? No, February 2nd, 2021. Um, is when I got in the accident. 3 days before we're supposed to play in the Super Bowl.
Gosh.
I'm at the office working late one night, and I decide to have a couple drinks, and then I make the terrible decision to get behind the wheel of my car and drive home.
Yeah.
And I was getting on the highway. I'm looking out the windshield, and I take my eyes off the windshield to the side rear view mirror, and boom, I hit a car. I actually hit 2 cars that night. And so literally 367 days from me holding up the Lombardi Trophy down in Miami, I find myself on the side of this highway with 2 mangled cars and the lifeless body of this little girl laying on the bed of my truck. And for a long time, I told myself my addiction never hurt anybody, right?
Yeah.
My justification was like, dude, the only person I'm hurting is me. But that night, I could no longer deny the fact that my addiction affected other people. I mean, it was laying there on the bed of my truck, you know? And, I mean, dude, I should have gone to jail that night. But I had severed my femoral artery in the accident. And so here I am standing on the side of the highway, basically bleeding out, and they rushed me to the hospital. And, the day I was supposed to leave for the Super Bowl to go coach in my second Super Bowl, I wake up in a hospital room down the hall from this little girl in a coma, fighting for her life because of me, because of my decision, and they actually released me the morning of the Super Bowl. I get released from the hospital, and I'll never forget I went back to my house, to my wife and kids, and I walk into my house, and my middle daughter, she was 5 years old at the time, same age as that little girl that I had hurt in the accident. She came up to give me a hug, and bro, I just broke down, man. All I could think about was that could be my little girl in that hospital room fighting for her life because of me.
Yeah.
And I think that's where my thinking finally changed, man. Was like between me standing on that highway, looking at that whole scene, looking at the paramedics working on her on the back of my truck, and that thought that, hey, your addiction does affect other people. And then walking into my house and me realizing, hey, that could be my little girl, that is fighting for her life because of me. I think that's where my thinking changed. And so when I walked into that rehab, I walked in there with a very receptive mindset, but it took me almost killing myself and another human being for me to finally have that thinking change.
Did you also realize eventually, after that too, how much it affects the other people? Cause it's not just the little girl too. It's your wife, your kids, your father, your brothers, gosh, and we talk about that a lot in the rooms and even on the podcast. Is a lot of the time when we have our issues with addiction, it's terrible, but it also sucks because it affects so many other people. And a lot of the time their needs and wants and what they've gone through gets pushed to the side too. So there's just a whole healing process within a whole family, a whole, like everybody, man. And that it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work, but I think you said it right. Like you went into that rehab with a different mindset, almost like a sponge, I would assume, just ready to soak it up and suffer those consequences that you did, but also be able to, find some sort of, redemption and change in that as well, man. I'm sure that wasn't easy.
Yeah, no, not at all. And that's the crazy thing is like, it wasn't until later, right? Like you mentioned, how it affects everybody around us. Right.
Yeah.
And I never thought about it. Like back in 2007, when me and my brother got in trouble and got arrested, I never thought about how it affected my younger siblings. I have 2 younger sisters and a younger brother, right? It never computed, right? And then this happens, and now I'm having to face the fact that, hey, my kids are having to go to school, right, and have to answer for me. They got teachers, parents, other students like looking at him, asking him, dude, what's up with your dad? Like drinking and driving, almost killing somebody. Like, what's going on? And the fact that I put them through that, and that stuff, it's such a selfish disease, right?
Yeah.
That I never thought about any of that, and so when that fog finally started to clear, and I'm in that rehab, and my wife is calling me, telling me, hey, the school counselor just called, and the kids are dealing with a lot of stuff at school, and
Yeah.
I'm like, geez, man, like, what was I thinking?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it really, it does affect, my addiction negatively impacted a lot of people, a lot of innocent people all around me, and
Yeah.
it's tragic. But
When the reality of prison hits, like what is
yeah,
that like, man? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot there too.
yeah. You know, so when I went to rehab, I was partnered with this old biker dude. He was my drug counselor. Old biker dude from
They're
Philadelphia.
always old biker dudes, man. Like that
Yeah,
ponytail.
man.
Yeah.
This dude was like the most blunt person I'd ever met in
Yep.
my life. There was no filter. He didn't know the word sugarcoat, right?
Yeah.
And I remember walking into his office one day, and he looked at me and he said, "Man, Britt, you look like you're struggling." And I kind of laughed. I was like, "Yeah, Brian, I am struggling, man. Like, there's a little girl fighting for her life because of me. I've lost everything, man." But the thing that I was struggling with most was like, how did I end up here again? You know? And I remember him looking at me and saying, "Britt, you know, we all go through hard times in life. Some of us harder than others, but we all go through hard times." And he said, "This too shall pass." Right. And it really hit me. I'm like, man, that's, I got to be able to start doing the work. Right. But this too shall pass. And I can recover from this.
Yeah.
But then he said something to me that really like hit me between the eyes. And he said, you got a long road ahead of you. He's like, I've gotten to know you pretty well here. He said, you're gonna make it through this. And I didn't know if I was gonna make it through prison, man. I didn't know if I was gonna make it to the next day. Like, had that
Yeah.
little girl died, there were a lot of thoughts there that, like, I don't really want to be here anymore.
Hmm.
Um, but he said, you know, I've gotten to know you, and you're going to make it through this. You got a long road ahead of you. You're going to do some prison time. He said, but you're going to make it through it. He said, but the real question is who do you want to be when you make it out the other side?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that hit me, dude. Like, I wasn't really sure who I wanted to be. I knew what I didn't want to be, right? Like, I had been to jail before. I knew what I was walking into. I knew I was walking into one of the most negative, violent environments on the face of this planet.
Yeah.
And that negativity has a funny way of slowly seeping into guys, and they can leave prison very hardened, negative people. And I definitely did not want that. I just wasn't sure how I was going to do it. And so I get sentenced, right, to 3 years in prison. They take me right from that courtroom straight to the penitentiary.
Hmm.
And, you don't get to say goodbye to your kids, nothing. And for the first 2 weeks, they had me in administrative segregation, right? They had me in the hole, locked down 24 hours a day by myself, solitary confinement. And all I had was time to think, right? I
Yeah.
didn't have any books. I didn't have anything to listen to. The only thing I had was an empty milk carton that I kept off of one of the breakfast trays. And I would set it in the corner of my cell, and I'd take toilet paper and wet it and roll it into balls and just shoot it into this empty milk carton for hours and just think, right? I would think about everything that had led me up to this point and how I was going to make it through prison and beyond. And literally the same thing kept coming back to me over and over and over again. And it was something that I had heard my entire life growing up. It's what I call my dad's secret sauce. It it's been up in every locker room he's ever been a head coach of. I've heard him talk to our team about it. I can't even tell you how many times. And it's his 4 pillars to success. Success on the field, in life, in business, just 4 pillars to success. And those 4 pillars are eliminate distractions, create energy, fear nothing, and attack everything. And so I sat there for 2 weeks and just thought about that, right? And how to apply those in my life. And I knew, like, eliminate distractions. Okay, well, there's a lot of distractions in prison. And luckily I'd been there before. I know what those distractions are, right? Sports gambling is huge because of who I am and my background. I knew people were going to hit me up for that. And anytime winning and losing is involved with money, bad things happen. And so I made it known real early, like, hey, man, I want nothing to do with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I stayed away from that. Gangs is another big one, man. Prison is so racially segregated, right? And they want everybody to stick to their own kind. And they want that for a multitude of reasons, but one of the big ones is for protection, and there's no way I'm going into prison and getting clicked up with some gang and leaving prison with tattoos that I don't really agree with, right? And so if I was going to do this, I was going to do this on my own 2 feet. They say in prison, the strongest walk alone. And so that's what I did, man. Like, I knew I was going to have to deal with some situations, and things could get a little hairy, but if I was going to do this, I was going to do this by myself. And so I eliminated those distractions. And
I had one question I just wanted to ask you, man, because I just had this vision of you shooting the rolled up toilet paper in the milk carton, and just all the time in the world just to sit and think. And it's probably dark and, at certain times or whatever, but did you hear from God while you were in there? Did you have any inclination? Could you feel his presence? Was there any type of spiritual moment that you had that maybe you'd like to share?
Yeah. So God played a huge role in my story, and it really started when I was in rehab, right? I had read the big book from AA multiple times. Yeah. And every time I read it, I would always skip over chapter 4, the atheists and agnostics, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like,
because I know God. I'm good.
Yeah. I was like, I don't need
that. Yeah, I'm kind of the same actually in that book.
And when I was in rehab, I finally read it, dude, and it became my favorite chapter. I literally highlighted the whole freaking chapter.
Really? I need to go back and read that. It's been a while.
It's unreal. Like, I love it. And so that in rehab, I got reconnected with God. I finally got down on my knees and would say a prayer. And it was the simplest prayer in the world. I said it every morning. And I'd say, God, give me, let me hear what you want me to hear, see what you want me to see, and say what you want me to say. That's it, man. Yeah, that's all. And that's where it started. And I just kept building it from there. And my spirituality got grounded there, but really blossomed in prison. When you're in a place like that, where there really isn't much hope around you, and the days seem long, and there's a lot of things going on. I mean, my wife left me when I was in prison, and so I really had to grab a hold of God and just say, hey, man, I need you to take this for a minute. Help me get through this. Give me the strength I need to just take one more step forward. Help me just do the next right thing. And in prison, I mean, you can get anything you want in prison, right? Any drug you want, you can get alcohol, you can get whatever you want. And again, that was one of those distractions that I had to eliminate, right?
Yeah.
And I relied heavily.
Sober too,
through
all that.
And if there's one place you want to numb, it would be in there.
Yeah, 100%.
But so every morning, dude, I would get up, I would make my bed, I would say my prayer, I would read from my scriptures, and then that's how I would start my day, know? And then one of the other things I did was they transferred me a lot. I was at like 4 different prisons. And at one of the prisons, I started an AA meeting, right? Like, I wanted to surround myself with like-minded people that wanted to make a change and wanted to do better. And then I wanted to give back what had been so freely given to me. And
Yeah.
so I started this AA meeting, and dude, I mean, just the things that happen in there, right? In prison, you don't talk about anything, right? You don't share things, because any little thing that's perceived a weakness can be used against you in there,
Mm.
right? And somehow we created this community once a week in this meeting where you had some of the hardest dudes you've ever met. They had killed people. There was a guy that he had been in for 40 years, right? He had
Wow.
3 bodies while he was in prison. He
Yeah.
stabbed 3 dudes to death in prison. And here we are in a meeting, and these guys are opening up and becoming vulnerable. And I
Wow.
was like, man, this is such a spiritual experience. And just that one meeting a week kind of recharged me, right? and
Yeah.
and the spirit that you felt in there helped get me through the next week, right?
Yeah.
And it was such a beautiful thing for men in such a hardened place to be able to come together and be
Yeah.
vulnerable and share what they're struggling with and helping each other out. And you'd see each other on the yard and be like, hey man, how you doing? How's your girl doing? Or how your kids doing? I know you're struggling with this. And it
Yeah.
was the program is real, man, and God is real.
Yeah. And it's crazy hearing you describe that too. If you back up a little bit, you had mentioned, in a place like that, there's no hope. But through
Yeah.
that, you're able to bring a little bit of hope, a little bit of
Yes.
fellowship, a little bit of community, where normally there's not much of that, if any.
Right.
And gosh, like that's so. What day or when you get out, what is that like? Like when does
Oh,
that day come? I mean, how
that's a
take us
crazy
through
story
that?
now.
Yeah,
So, um, I went in, and they have like, you know, the chart, your charge, and then your how much you got sentenced, and then there's a chart that tells you, okay, you should probably get out after this amount of time, right? So I'm thinking I'm going to do a year in prison out of the 3 years. And I go to the parole board, my parole hearing, and they ask you, what are you doing in there? How are you trying to better yourself? Da, da, da. And so, and I was trying to do all the right things,
yeah,
and they came back with a date of 2 years, right?
mm,
And I was crushed, because the very first time I talked to my daughter, my youngest, she was she was really upset, and she was like, Dad, you're going to miss my birthday.
mm,
And I was like, yeah, I am going to miss your birthday. And at the time, again, I was thinking I was going to get out in a year. And so I told her, I said, babe, I promise you, I won't miss another birthday. Right. And so when the parole board came back with that 2 years, I was crushed. I was like, I just broke my promise to my little girl, you know? And so I was devastated. And again, one of those hard days in there where the that AA community really helped me, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, and so I end up going to a therapeutic community where it's rehab programming basically all day, right? And I was required to do 6 months of that. And so I complete that, and they tell me, all right, we're going to take 6 months off your sentence, or off your time. Okay, so now I'm going to get out in a year and a half. I'm still going to miss my little girl's birthday, but
you're
I'm going to
six
get
months
out like,
sooner. Yeah,
yeah, 6 months earlier. So I'm like, sweet. So I complete that 6 months, and I got like 4 more months to go. And all of a sudden, I get one of the guards comes up to my cell and is like, hey, you got to come with me. So he walks me down to the warden's office, and I walk into the warden's office, and they tell me, hey, uh, the governor is commuting your sentence,
wow,
and you're getting out. And I was like, what? And so the
wow,
governor actually let me out 2 months before my actual release date. And so there were a lot of stipulations to that, but walking out of that prison was like, man, the air never smelt so good. The sun didn't shine as good as it did on that day. I mean, it's like, I can't even describe. You hear the birds chirping, and I was on cloud nine.
Yeah.
I didn't care that they were putting me on house arrest, right? At least I could take a shower by myself.
Yeah.
I could sleep in a
See your
nice bed.
kids.
I could see my kids, eat some
Yeah.
good food, hug my mom, hug my dad, give my little girls a kiss. I mean, it
Man.
was it was awesome, man. It was absolutely awesome. And experiences like that, um, at least for me, have really helped me um, since then. Not take things for granted, right?
Oh yeah, I'm
And be
sure.
able to, like, nothing is really that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Um, when you have everything taken away from you and you can't see your kids and you can't be around your family, and then that's all given back to you, man. Uh, I don't take anything for granted these days, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
It's
I know
funny.
that was a long-winded answer.
Oh no, it's not at all. I appreciate you sharing, and kind of taking us through that. It's important. And I think it's an important part of your story too. And just on that note, I've shared this before, but I remember one of my good buddies, Seth, who's been on the podcast quite a few times, and we've known each other for a long time. But I was complaining about something one day, and he goes, "Bro, is it really that big of a deal?" I'm like, "Well, no." He's like, "Well, then get over it." And my point to that is like, obviously your situation quite a bit different than whatever it was I was going through. It was probably something stupid, but we tend to make things in our own heads a lot of the time worse than they are. And I think it if we reset that and flip that on that gratitude tip, and obviously yours is a pretty serious situation. Like you had everything taken,
Yeah.
and now you're getting it back. And so I think that's a good segue actually into what is life like today for you, man? Like how's your family? Like how's the little girl doing that, in the accident? I don't know how much you can talk about like legally or whatever that looks like, but I do have
Yeah.
a couple questions of follow up. Like what is it like today, man? Like what can you share there?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I mean, my heart always goes out to that little girl and her family. And,
Yeah.
I know I negatively altered her life forever. Um, thank God she has made a recovery. I don't
Good.
know to what extent there's any lasting things. I know that uh, for the most part, she's back to 100%.
Yeah.
But so that is a blessing in and of itself.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, for my life, I mean, dude, I'm living my life to the best of my abilities, trying to give back. I'm doing, when I got out, I started volunteering at a inner city high school, helping coach their football team.
Nice.
Which was awesome. Getting to be around these guys that a lot of them, their brothers, dads, uncles were incarcerated. A lot of them had never
Yeah.
met their fathers. They have been incarcerated their whole life. And to be able to show these guys, hey, man, like there is a different way, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you don't have to go down that same path. I was able to introduce Chris Jones. Chris Jones is I coached him on the D line in Kansas City. We're still really close, and so I train him in the off season. And he came down to the high school one day. He called me up. He's like, "Hey man, can we get a workout in?" I was like, "Well, I'm at the high school." I was like, "If you want to drive down to KC, come on."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, I'll be there." So he walks in, and to see these kids' faces when all
Yeah.
6'6", 300 pounds of this dude who's a god in Kansas City walks in, and I mean, it was just awesome to be able to give those kids that experience. And then for those kids to be able to see this guy, who's the best defensive lineman in the NFL, work
Yeah.
out and watch how he goes about his business, the attention to detail, the grit that he applies in every drill, I think has had a lasting effect on them. And so, but my point is that, what I do today is, man, I try to be a service. I learned about servant leadership when I was in prison, right? Um, Everything is very transactional in there. If you do something for somebody, they want to pay you for it, right?
Yeah.
And my thing is like, dude, don't pay me back. Pay it forward, right? Go try to help somebody else. That's enough payback for me, right? And so that's what I want to do. I just want to help somebody not go through the same things I went through.
Yeah.
And however that looks, I never, I wasn't sure if I ever wanted to share my story, right? And when I got out of prison, about a month after I got out of prison, this guy hit me up. His name's Damon West. You might have heard of him. He's the coffee bean guy, right?
Oh
He's one
yeah,
of
I've
the
heard his name. Yeah.
one of the largest keynote speakers in the
Yep.
country. He's written a bunch of books with John Gordon and on his own. And he hits me up and he's like, man, we got a very similar story. He had a 65-year prison sentence in the state of Texas
Wow.
and ends up
Right.
getting a new lease on life. He got paroled and he said, I think you really need to think about sharing your story and trying to help other people, you know? And so he really pushed me in that direction. And, it's been awesome being able to go around to speak to high schools and colleges and businesses, has been so rewarding. And I mean, listen, you know how it is. Addiction in this day and age, it touches everybody. It
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
matter where you come from, how much money you have or don't have. It doesn't care what color you are. It touches everybody, whether it's personally or someone close to you. And the amount of people that have come up to me after I've got done talking and been like, hey, man, I really appreciate that. Like, I'm going through this, has been so just gratifying and it's like a blessing. I feel like they're helping me way more than I'm helping them,
Yeah.
you know,
Isn't that funny how
and
that happens
it,
too? Like
it
you're like,
is.
wait, what? And you know
Yeah.
what's funny, man, is like it literally is. It's nine, like I would probably say 8 out of 10, maybe 9 out of 10 people that I talk to, whether it's, in like wherever, at the grocery store even. It's always, and I tell them what I do, and they go, oh man, well, my brother or my mom,
Yeah.
or I struggled for, I'm 13 years sober or whatever. I mean, every single time. We were just talking about that on the meeting last night, actually. And there's just you're so right. It doesn't discriminate. That's, it's the way we've put it or heard it for a long time. Like, this thing does not discriminate. It doesn't care who you are, what color you are, where you're from, how much money you have or don't have. Like, it will get you, and it will not only affect you, it will affect many, many other people that you love and care
Yes.
about too. And so I think that's so important for you to be able to be out there sharing your story. That's why I started the podcast back in 2014. I was like, man, I'm so tired of hiding this. I just want to share it, and maybe it'll help somebody else. And in turn, it kind of helped me stay sober and, did the same thing. So so it sounds like you're doing a lot of speaking. Are you still coaching a
Yeah.
little bit? You're still coaching, right?
Uh,
Kind of, sort of.
yeah, I mean, I help my son's football team out,
Yeah.
so I do that. I work for a health and wellness company too.
Nice, man.
This lady gave me an opportunity. She took a chance on me. I mean, when
Yeah.
I got out of prison, literally I couldn't get a job at the gas station. When
Wow.
people would find out my last name and who I was, here I am in Kansas City. I got out of prison. My dad had just won 2 consecutive Super Bowls, and I'm
It's
thinking, all right,
insane.
I won't have a problem finding a job. I couldn't find a job, man.
Wow.
And lo and behold, this lady who started this at home workout nutrition business was like, you know what? I'll help you out. I'll give you a job. And her name's Lexi Johnson. Lexi J Wellness is her company. And that in of itself has changed my life. I
Yeah.
mean, getting back in shape. I think working out and the nutrition and taking care of myself has been a huge part of my recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being able
I
to
was going to
get
ask
those
you about
natural
that.
endorphins. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just like, dude, I can't go 3 or 4 days without working out. I start to feel depressed and
Yeah.
like weird. I'm
Same.
like, no, like this is part of my recovery. This is one of my dailies, you know.
Yeah.
I gotta put, it says in the big book, in one of the stories in the back, right? It says, when you put recovery first, everything else becomes first class.
Mm.
And I've had to learn that, you know, like it's okay to take care of yourself and work out and eat right and put yourself first in that sense, because it does have a ripple effect on the rest of your day and all the people around you, you know?
Absolutely.
And so being able to get into Lexi J Wellness and have someone actually believe in me when I didn't think anyone was ever going to believe in me again was absolutely huge. And so, I mean, I owe so much to her and her husband, and, you know, I'm just blessed to have great people in my life.
Have you heard, or the secret to sobriety? It's the first 3 words on page 112 of the big book. Have you ever heard that one?
Oof.
Just look it up.
Tell me.
I'll share it with everyone else out there too. I don't want to tell you. I want you to look. I want everyone else out there. If you're listening, you're familiar with the big book. The secret sauce is the first 3 words on page 112 of the big book. And I love that one. And somebody shared that with me years ago. I don't remember if it was in a meeting or outside, but that's always a good one. And the other thing, dude, it was one of the questions I was going to ask you was with the coaching. Do you feel like you have a sense of like just coaching your boy now, which is so awesome, man? Like that's gotta be, I mean, I gotta say that's right up there at the top level of coaching. I mean, it's your son, bro. It's that time together. You're never going to get that back. And it's just so awesome. But I also feel like it's probably putting a lot of things in perspective for you and making you genuinely love the game again. And dude, I just want to speak this over you, man. Like I see more opportunities in that space coming down the road as you continue just to stay on the path that you're on right now, bro. Like, and I think that, you know, God will work all that stuff out, but you're in a great spot right now to be able to be with your boy and coach and stuff too. It's so cool, man.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, I've had more fulfillment out of coaching those kids than I got out of coaching the best athletes in the world and winning Super Bowls. I mean, it is cool. Unbelievable. The amount of growth you see every practice is awesome, you know, and I love every minute of it.
Well, they teach us stuff too. Just like you were saying, like sometimes I feel like my boy teaches me more than I teach him. I'm like, oh, you're smart, dude. Like okay, I need to rethink that, man. Yeah. Good stuff, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I know we're right about an hour right now, so I want to be respectful of your time. And any last pieces of advice or anything else you want to share before we wrap up today, Britt?
Man, I would just tell everyone, you know, there's not a lot of things we can control in life, you know, but the decisions we have to take advantage of. And today I have a decision to, I get to decide how I interpret and react to things, right? When I focus on the good, on the positive, that tends to multiply and grow. When I focus on the negative or the bad, that tends to multiply and grow. And so the lens that I look through is very important. And so I try to focus on the good in everybody. You know, no matter how bad a situation is, there's something positive you can take from it. You know,
that's good, man.
And so that's where I would leave.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Where can folks reach out to you? Where can they find more information if they want to connect with you? Where's the best place to do that?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Britt Reid Speaks. I got a website, brittspeaks.com. And so people can get a hold of me there and look me up. You know, I'm always there. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer or talk to you guys and just do whatever I can to help you in your journey of life.
Yeah, I love it, man. And we put both of those links in the show notes so they're easy for you to find. And man, I appreciate you, man. This is fun. I feel like, I mean, I could probably go another hour and just hear more, but maybe we can do a part 2 or something at some point and dive into some other topics or something. That'd be great, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you again, bro. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah. No, thank you. This is a dream come true, man. The fact that I found this podcast in prison and it's come full circle, man.
Insane, man.
I love it.
Insane. Hold on one sec. Don't hang up yet, man. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. Share the episode, share the podcast with a friend. I greatly appreciate that. Take care. God bless. Keep your blood clean.